G'day guys. Today we are going to be working on your business model. And the reason we're looking at your business model is because most of the time we have gone out, started our own company, we're sole trading, we've been working our own for a while, and we know how to deliver the service, but we've never really stopped to consider the model as a whole. So today I'm going to explain how we establish our business model. I'm going to jump between the iPad here and we're going to draw out the business model and a few other bits and pieces or a few other tools that we're going to use. But effectively today what we want to do is we want to understand the model itself. Then we want to define some unit economics or some drivers that we can use to advance our business forward. And the reason that I say unit economics is because, and it's just a massive term to say that we want to find what is the right mix of things. And that's probably, let's use a carpentry gang, for example. The ideal mix is like 4 guys, 1 truck can produce let's say like 20k a week, or let's just throw some figures out there. But what we're essentially doing is I'm going to overlay here with the iPad, make some drawings for you so that you can follow along at home and pause the video at any point in time and start to establish what yours looks like. So I'm going to do it nice and slow, but essentially we're going to be establishing the business model, looking at some tools that we can use, and drawing out some unit economics or some pieces of information that we can use to make better informed decisions. We can help grow our business and do that based on the data, not based on opinion. So I'm going to jump straight in. I'm going to try and draw as much as I can up here for you so that you can see what is going on inside my head, and also take some of these notes at home. So when we're considering the business model, I always like to start with what I call the economic engine, which effectively is, if we say strategies at the top, and I should mention as well, we do want to select our mission or our tangible, quantifiable thing that we want to achieve at the end of this financial year. But let's put these up and have a look at the economic engine first. So we got we've got strategy, which is where do we want to go? We've got marketing, which is getting enough attention for people to know who we are, so there is the option for them to buy from us. We need sales. How are we going to convert that attention into revenue, into actual work? We've got our ops. How are we going to maintain customer satisfaction and maintain the quality of our service and maintain our brand? As attention increases and our conversions increase, we also want to make sure that we are maintaining the level of consistency just as you were on site, regardless of whether you are or are not on site. Now we've got people. Who are the guys in the team that are actually going to do the work? As there becomes more and more of those, as it becomes, the org chart, which we're going to get into as well, we will need to establish who is in the team, and it's going to be drawn out into a org chart, which we're going to get to. Who's in the team? At which point do we need to have middle level managers in there as well in order to help out? We're going to start to map out what that dream team looks like. And then also the last part is finance. So the last part of the economic engine is finance. How are we going to get paid, and are we getting paid enough, and is there profitability left over? So what we're looking at in this economic engine is getting attention, converting attention. We need to do the work once we win it. We need to have people that are actually going to do the work and people that can advance the company forward. And then we need to have enough profitability left over as well. So that is effectively the economic engine, or the model, the business model that we are working towards. Now, when we're talking about establishing some kind of unit economics based off of this, what we need to first do is look at, well, if we are here, we've got our revenue and we've got our time. If we are down here somewhere and we could be doing, let's just say $1 million a year, and we want to get to 2 million, there are certain things that we need to do in order to get there. And when we're starting to think about how far we have to go. You can almost say if we're going to go from 1 to 2, then we're going to need some pretty top level things, looking at like doubling the team size, doubling the amount of marketing or attention that we're getting. We need to start looking at if we want to get to this mark, and this could be, you could be starting at 3 or 4 and you could be going up to 8, but just using the concept of doubling helps us get our head around how much action we actually have to take. So referring back to how we're going to like roadmap out this business model and how we're going to use some tools to understand where we want to go. First, I want to start with your ideal role. And the reason I say your ideal role is because this is the job that you're building for yourself. And I want to start here because when we're thinking about this strategy component, when we're thinking about strategy, you don't have to grow the biggest company ever, and it doesn't have to be doubling revenue, and it doesn't have to be these kind of vanity metrics. What tends to be the best way to establish what you want to do is actually to think about what your ideal job is. Now, some guys want to stay on the tools forever and they want to continue to deliver the service, and that's totally fine. In that model, you're going to be limiting yourself to a certain size company, and there's only a certain amount of revenue that you will be able to do. So for this example, let's just say, and the majority of guys, we enjoy doing our work, but we don't really want to be on the tools all the time. And we don't really want to be getting called back onto site as well. We want to build out a company that has got middle level managers. This is really the ideal scenario, is getting to the 3, 4, 5 mil mark where the company produces consistent 10% net profits. You take home $250,000 or thereabouts, being the highest income tax threshold, not a bad spot to shoot for. And you can still go away on holidays. You take more of an executive role where you're driving the brand forward instead of getting drawn back onto site. So let's have a look at this ideal role. For the purpose of this part, I'm going to base this on, let's say we want to be a project manager, because we have to live each role first before we can offload it to somebody else. And typically, if we're thinking about, and I'm going to draw out our org chart, typically if we're thinking about where we are, we've got managing director. Down here, we've got our crews. We can just call these team. Usually we've got a leading hand that sits somewhere in here. Now, you can have 1, 2, or multiples of this framework. These are our leading hands, and we've got our technicians down here. You can have multiple of these groups, whether you've got 1, 2, 3 units or crews. And what we're thinking about, or what we're essentially doing, is building in this project manager position. Hypothetically, we're saying that this could be the ideal role. And if you already have project managers in place, fantastic. This could be just a little refresher and we'll take some of these components working forward. If you don't, then this is a great opportunity to take these unit economics, work out how we can plan to building out the ideal role, depending on what that is. So we're jumping back over to the ideal project manager role. This effectively means that, sorry, I'm just zooming in here. This effectively means that you're going to be doing sales or quotes. You're going to be managing projects. And you're going to be customer sat. Making sure that the jobs are done properly. So this project manager role, the idea of building this out and getting very clear on this and you doing this first is because we don't want you doing this long term. We want somebody else taking this role from you, but we need to understand how our company model works in order to build out our dream role, in order to then maximize the growth of the company. So what we have said is we've got our business model. We now have a bit of a strategy in place, and our strategy could be, let's just say our mission. Let's go back here and make these just a different color. We're going to go our mission. is 2 mil by end of financial year. Now, if you are below that and you want to shoot for 1 or you want to shoot for 4, whatever, for the purpose of this example, we just wanted to put a tangible mission down. And the reason that we're building that, we want to get to here. The reason we're building out that mission is because we want to be able to get our project manager in, which is you in the short term, and then have somebody else fill this position so that you can then move up. Now, there absolutely could be within this org chart as well, there absolutely could be, different pieces like admin that sit off to the side. But let's keep this example simple because we don't want to overcomplicate things too quickly. So jumping back into looking at our model, we need to establish some unit economics of what's happening. And the reason that we're doing that is we're looking at kind of this part of the team. So I would like you to jot down for me your revenue for last financial year and have a crack at that. Once you've got that, and you'll be pulling that from 0 as well. Once you've got that, we've got our revenue from last financial year. Now we want to look at how many team members were in the team for the last financial year. So we're going to go number of team or number of people. Now, if your company has been growing really fast and what happened at the start of financial year, quarter 1 and quarter 2, say you only had a few guys, now you've doubled that size by this time, maybe just look at what your average revenue was over the previous quarter or the previous 6 months. What we're trying to find is the most accurate average, so that, and the most accurate average that represents the company of how it is now, so that we can then start to understand how much revenue one person can do, and have the conversation around, we can't just add one more person, which will equal a certain amount of revenue. It depends on the model. But note down your number of people, and you've got your number of people, your revenue for period, number of people. What we need to do is, let's just say for whole figures, we had $1 million last year and we had 10 guys. That equals each person can, or actually that's a bit advantageous or a bit undershooting the mark there. Let's say we had 5 people, which means that if we had 5 people, each person can do 200K. So let's get the calc out and make sure my sums are correct. We go 200K divided by 12, should be 166, excellent. 16. So we go 16K per person per month. That is the start of some kind of unit economics or some kind of information that we can use to inform our data when we get back up to understanding how do we forecast. So some tools that we're going to be bringing in is forecast. We need kind of the amount of leads, the amount of clients, depending on how much referral, word of mouth kind of thing. We're not typically looking at like just direct, straight from marketing leads, but we're starting to draw out a bit of an understanding to go, okay, well, if we are looking at each person to us in the team is worth $16,000 a month, when we get to the, and we had our map earlier of where we want to go, which is up to here, we can then say, let's just use July, August, September, October, November, December. You get the idea. You'd span that out over 12 months. We need to say that, say we're in July at the moment, and we're only doing 80K. 80K, how many guys have we got in the team? We can do $1 million last financial year, 16K, one person equals 16K. Let's just reverse that. 16 by 5. Cool. 16 by 5 gives us our mil, yes. So what we need to do is we're starting at the 80K mark and we're assuming that we need to grow, for whole figures at X amount to get us up to the 160K period. We need to establish, well, if we are growing by, or let's just say the increase is at 16K, we would need to increase one new hire every month. Now, when we start to think about our forecast or how we are, our growth trajectory or our run rate, we could be thinking that it could be a little bit unrealistic. It could be a little bit unrealistic for us to hire one person per month. So, and we're just going to pop that into a bit of red because we're not sure that we can actually hire one person per month. What may be more realistic, and this happens quite often, is that we know that we can hire one person per quarter. So we can go one per quarter, which means that we can increase by 16K per month. So 16 by 3 equals 48K. So every quarter we can increase by 50K. So if we come back down here and go, okay, well, if we're going to set some targets, we know that at the moment we're doing 80K in a quarter's time. So we're going to do this by quarter. In a quarter's time, so we're going to hire somebody here. We're going to hire somebody here, which is going to give us then the capacity to go up to 96. Hire again. Which is going to give us then the capacity to add another 16 to that. So what will that give us? 112. Quick math. So what we're starting to formulate is how are we going to build out this team and how fast can we build it based on the information that we are pulling out from our business. So there's one way to go about it, thinking that how fast can we recruit people, which is usually a bit of a kind of niggly point of, well, I could probably do one person every 8 weeks but knowing that one person every 4 weeks is probably a little bit too bullish. So what we're really looking at is when we set our mission and work out, what we're really truly working towards doing, we need to find out, is that too far? Is that too much of a push? And is it plausible really? So we're basing this going, well, if we can hire one person a quarter in current position, then if we start to draw out some, people goals, we need to increase our capacity to hire. Because if we can take this from one person per quarter to one person per 2 months, we can grow significantly faster. So I know we're jumping, around and back and forward here, and we're going to tie it all together shortly. Because by understanding more of these kind of economic pieces, more of these drivers that justify how we can actually grow the company, will enable us to then formulate a pretty concise plan. So let's draw some conclusions based on this model that we're looking at, and then we can actually extract out some a good understanding of how to progress this model forward and what's kind of unreasonable for us to achieve. So let's grab a spare sheet and start to think about, if we really do want to see how big we can go, we need to be able to increase our ability to hire. We also need to increase our activity of how we're getting leads. So it's really, we're thinking about like, can we get the leads or the attention in order to, and can we recruit the staff fast enough in order to achieve where that mission is. So they're kind of our two hypotheticals that we're looking at, is people versus pipeline. And we haven't really touched on the pipeline, the marketing component at all, because most of the time we're just doing word of mouth. And there's some great ways that we can drive word of mouth up, but we need to test those theories first. So there's going to be things that we can do, like around the brand awareness component, which is generally just social media ads blasted at a generic audience. Most of us are in construction, servicing residential and commercial builders anyway, so they're very easy to target, but it's not going to be kind of a direct result type setup. In that, what I mean is they're not going to be going straight to a lead form in order to work with us. It's more trying to make ourselves top of mind with them. But what we can also roll out is a DM strategy. And we go into a fair bit of detail in this throughout different workshops. But these are two of the components that we would need to understand. Can we get enough? And then at what cost? So they're things that we're going to work on anyway, but they're points that we need to understand, that we know that we can definitely hire one person every quarter. I think that's very achievable. I don't think that's an unrealistic position at all. Then we need to make sure that we can service the leads in order to hit our target. And finally, making sure that this is the job that we are shooting for, or the role that we're shooting for. So in that project manager role, it means that you can't be drawn back onto site. You do need to focus significantly on driving the people component of the company up. Driving the pipeline up, driving the amount of attention that we get. And then also on the other hand, so we're driving marketing and awareness up, and using your existing knowledge and your existing quoting skills to improve the amount of quotes that we convert. And we then need to make sure that we can improve our recruiting and onboarding functions so that we can get people fast enough. So we're throwing pipeline versus people to build out the two components that make up the vast majority of your project manager role. So I know we've jumped around quite a bit, and I'm going to summarize just back onto this economic engine, because we can draw out some hypothetical conclusions to say that if our mission is to do $2 million by end of financial year, then we are going to need to increase our leads. Leads needs to go up. Our quote win rate needs to go up. We need to maintain our gross profit margins. Now let's just draw this properly. We need to maintain our gross profit margins so that we are still making money. Gross profit margin needs to stay the same or increase, but also our customer satisfaction needs to stay the same or increase. Our ability to recruit, our recruit time needs to be shortened. We need to be faster at recruiting. And also we need to make sure that we are forecasting for profit. Now, you're probably thinking like, there was a few things that we didn't touch on there. We didn't really touch on forecast. We didn't really touch on gross profit and maintaining customer satisfaction, because I don't want to ramble on for 3 hours. Those are separate separate tools or separate frameworks that will formulate a more cohesive picture of how these components actually look and come together. But for the purpose of this, we really need to be considering where we want to go. What is the job that we're making for ourselves? In this scenario, we want to go to $2 million. We want to maintain our profitability, and we want to build out your project manager role. We need to increase our attention. We need to improve our conversion. So we need to get more people asking for our work or asking for our service, more people knowing who we are. We need to improve our quote win rate, so the number of quotes we send versus the number of quotes we win. We definitely need to start to be conscious about our gross profit and putting all of our cost of goods sold, assigning those wages up there and materials, and reporting on our numbers properly, so that we can then maintain our gross profit. And we need to make sure that we are mapping out a way that we can recruit people through a recruiting and onboarding plan in order to speed up that process. All of that coming together throughout that economic engine to the final part being the financial forecast, which says that if that $2 million that we want to do, if this is really what we want to achieve, we will then have it mapped out in the forecast based on our profitability, finding, and depending on how fast we can hire people, we'll draw information into our forecast. Depending on how much it costs us to obtain leads as well, that information is going to be pushed through to our forecast. Our quote win rate and also our pricing is going to have a significant influence on our forecast and our gross profit and customer satisfaction as well. So customer satisfaction won't quite fall into the forecast because that's more maintaining the brand, but gross profit absolutely does push in. So I hope this gives you a bit of an understanding about the business model itself and all of the different components that come in. So prior to jumping into this session, we're thinking about, at the start of the session, we're thinking about, not having such a conscious effort into all the business departments, more just thinking about more work is more work. And I hope this gives you an understanding that there are different departments we can break the business up into based on the economic engine. And we're starting to look at historical data and look at some of the ways the business operates in order to pull out metrics that we can use. So this is a little bit of an overview, and we go deep into this in our sessions, and we've also got workshops on the specific areas, but this is a really good starting point for us at the moment.